Hello, everyone, and welcome to the LARP Tales podcast. My name is Oliver. I am one half of your hosting duo. With me, as always, is my co-host and wife, Robyn. Hey, Robyn.
Hello.
So this episode we are going to go over. We've been to a few Empire player events because it is getting into the season. We've been LARPing like 3 times in as many weeks, and we are going LARPing this weekend too. Um,
Yeah, we're crazy.
yeah, well, we're like the young LARPing kids that do all these LARPs. It's tiring, but it's been pretty fun, right?
No, it has been a lot of fun actually because like last year is when we like first got into player events and we did like a player event, and then like this year we've kind of like done lots and lots of them all close together, which was definitely been helpful for the new characters, I think, because it's allowed us to kind of like develop them a lot more in
Yeah.
like a really small space of time.
Yeah, we'll get into all that. First off, the housekeeping. If you are watching us on YouTube, then please give us a thumbs up. Click that subscribe if you are new here. If you're listening on your favorite audio platform like Apple Podcasts or Spotify, leave us a 5-star review. Saying this, I do want to say, because I say it all the time, just on autopilot, if you have given us a 5-star review, thank you very much, because you have been doing that. So we do appreciate you doing that. It does basically just helps more people find us on those platforms. We do also have a Patreon. If you want to support us another way, you can become a member there for a very low cost. It's just to help us keep the lights on and keep us bringing more content your way. Help us out, help us upgrade stuff. It all just goes straight back into the podcast and the YouTube channel. You are, of course, under no obligation to do so. You can enjoy our content completely for free. And with that all out of the way, let's get into our recap of the first player event that we did this year.
Yeah, so our first player event of the year is one that was recommended to us after a last podcast guest, and we were convinced to go to it. It was a dance between drops, and this was described everywhere to us as, oh, the Dawnish murder wedding, and we still decided to go to it.
Yeah,
So
yeah. So yeah, this is our first player event, Empire player event of the year. We went to this one straight after we came back from And Now My Watch Begins, the Game of Thrones LARP that we did. Which, by the way, the video that we did on that, the podcast episode, I should say that we did on that, was quite well received. I think a lot of people enjoyed hearing a different type. Well, I mean, there's obviously a lot of Song of Ice and Fire fans that wanted to see
yeah.
what it was like. There's a lot of people that wanted to get into that game and couldn't get tickets. I think a lot of people wanted to see what the game was like in the end, and also our thoughts on the games that they run over at Feast Your Eyes and iLARP. Um,
Mm.
so hopefully we'll be bringing more like non-Empire LARP content your way as well with those. But yeah, we already had a fair few kind of player events booked anyway, and we didn't have this one
Mm.
booked. And then we had Grayson on the podcast, and Grayson was like, "Oh yeah, I think there might be some tickets still available for this one. Do you want to come?" We were just like,
What I
"Sure."
loved about this is I like Grayson was like, yeah, you should come, and everything. I was like, yeah, do you know what? Yeah, I'm just gonna book it. I'm gonna think about it. We're just gonna go for it. And then we booked it. And then after I was like, I'm gonna actually read through everything. And then the first line is like, this is a high risk, high threat event. And I was like, oh, come on, Grayson. You
Yeah.
did not tell me that.
It was pretty high threat. It was a higher threat
Oh,
than
it was so
than I thought. So a couple of little things I want to bring up about player events. So uh, with the Empire player events, like there's not a big. You're not going to get like death tolls like you do at the Fest LARP, like the actual Empires.
yeah.
It's not when it's like high threat, even if there's a lot of combat. It's usually skirmish style combat. It's either going to go the whole thing is going to go very wrong. I wonder if anyone's actually got any stories about a player event going like horribly wrong and lots of people dying.
Yeah, because we've had some people on talk about very specific deaths, and very and like certain events that a few people have died at, but I've not heard of any, like you say, where like lots of people have died at a player event.
Yeah, because I remember when we had Jamie
Yeah,
Wakefield
it's
on.
Jamie I was thinking about.
Yeah, and his I think it was his first character, second character or something had died at a player event and came in terminal, you know. But I haven't heard
Mm.
of any player events that like, oh yeah, all these players, like 40 players went to a player event and they all got wiped. I don't. When they say a high threat, it's not. That's not usually what they mean, because that's what I'll be honest. When I heard like high threat, when people used to talk about player events and I had no idea about them, when they used to say high threat, I used to think, oh, that was like a possibility.
Whereas high threat is basically telling you that there is a possibility you could lose your character at this event.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
what it is there to say.
yeah.
It's not a promise that a load of people are going to die or that anyone's going to die. It's just making you aware of that information before you go ahead and book the event.
Yeah, yeah, and which brings me to my next point about player events, because I've seen people uh, talk on Facebook and the forum about player events, and we had Andy Raff on recently, who's the lead writer and is in charge of like the campaign. One of the people that runs Profound Decisions, basically, on, and he cleared this up for us. There's a lot of people still confused. Not that this is public service announcement. Well, sorry, it is. It's a public service announcement.
Turning
Obviously,
into
I
it.
don't expect everybody in the Empire LARP community to listen to our and watch our content. It'd be nice if you did. But yeah, no, like Andy cleared this up. So some people are putting down what the difference is between a sanctioned and non-sanctioned event, a combat event, this event, a social event. So, from my understanding of what Andy said, is that the only difference between a sanctioned and unsanctioned event is that when someone makes an Empire player event, they email into PD, and they will just go, "Yeah, cool, run it," and then they'll give suggestions. Um, Andy said there hasn't been ever been an unsanctioned event, meaning
Yeah.
an unsanctioned event would be if PD went, "No, we're not in," like basically if you uh, we don't advise you go to this. Basically, that would be an
Yeah.
unsanctioned event. You know, so every player event is technically sanctioned. I think a lot of people get confused with, oh, it's a sanctioned event, therefore your character can die. No, it's like if it's a player event and they're playing by Empire rules, your character is at risk. So
Yeah.
I'm not entirely sure though. Like from what I understand, from what Andy is saying, or said about it, had to say about it, and from what I understand, talking to people who organize player events, I'm not entirely sure if there was a conflict. If you died at a player event and you messaged PD and went, no, I don't think I should be dead. You know, there wasn't any it wasn't an Empire uh, official event. There was no um, refs there. You know, I mean, I imagine there's probably because there's lots of people who ref that play these games. There's
Yeah.
probably always refs there, but I would just be interested to know what you know. I wonder if that's um ever come up, you know. So I
I
don't
mean, I'd
know.
imagine it probably has at some point.
Mm.
Because I don't know though, because like after now doing an event that was high threat, an event which did have refs and did have weapons check and things like that, after doing that, I'm like, it it was straightforward enough to avoid death, if that makes
It would just
sense.
it would I don't know. I'm curious as to, because it's pretty clear cut at the events, because they're like, hey, you know, you are no, your character's gone. You know, they're there. They go, no, it's a hard. Yeah, your character's gone. You have to go make a new character. Whereas at a player event, there's a whole like, well, my character's still there on the system. You know, I can come to the event. My character is still alive. I haven't notified PD yet because there's no
Yeah.
need to yet. You know, and if I'm like, hey, it seems like another loot, and you know, something that PD would have to be like, right, we have to like make a decision now on this player's experience coming to our event, because of what happened at something that wasn't our event. This is hypothetical because I think
Yeah.
everyone wants to play be cool, right? You know, if my character died at a player event, you know, and I went, no, actually, I don't want them to have died at this player event. That obviously undermines the entire event anyway. You know, so I'm just,
Yeah.
you know, I
I mean,
doubt anyone would want to do that.
that's why we keep circling back to this thing
Mm.
where the events are quite clear on if there is a risk or not. It's really clear in the event. So
Yeah,
I guess it's a case of if you're booking an event that says high threat, high risk, you know it's a possibility. If it says zero threat event, then you should be pretty certain nothing's going to happen unless you actually unless maybe you have decided that you want your character to die at that event. You might do something quite dramatic and in role play, and that's something different.
yeah,
But somebody's not going to come in and kill you, basically.
yeah, yeah.
This is kind of what it means.
Yeah, yeah. Anyway, so we went up to this player event, which was high threat, and because it was last minute booking for us, and we were like, oh, you know what? Yeah, but I mean, they put on a real cost effective event for us because when we heard about the event, like, oh yeah, there's probably a couple of tickets going. We're like, oh, it sounds like a good event, you know, and we were like, oh, you know what? It's another however many hundreds of pounds too, because it's up for us. It was up north, you know. It was a 3 hour drive. And we're like, oh, I forget that's another hotel. That's like more food and things like that. And then we found out that the ticket price included the actual lot. So we
Like
were staying in the
everything.
yeah, we were staying in the IC venue, which basically went, oh yeah, well, sod it, yeah, we'll do it. We'll
Yeah,
drive
like
up.
the venue itself was absolutely brilliant. It was like a youth hostel, wasn't it?
Yeah,
But it was a beautiful big
it
building,
was in the
lots
Lake
of
District. Yeah, so it
yeah.
was like literally on Lake Windermere. Not on literally on, but literally by the side of Lake Windermere. It's a shame we didn't actually get a chance to have a good look around Lake Windermere because by the time we drove up there, it was dark, and then I had a nice little drive on the Saturday morning because I had to go find some some alcohol and some supplies in the morning, and the nearest place was like a 20-minute drive away, all the way up north and around the lake. So
Yeah, can I just say as well, like so the organizers did an absolutely incredible job. We were already kind of like told, that the people organizing this event have organized some amazing events in the past and to like really go and they really go for it. So we were super excited about that anyway. But we were given a lot of warnings before arriving. One warning that we all kind of looked at and went, it'll be fine, was we recommend you arrive during daylight because there is tight, twisty, slippery roads to get here. We're like, oh, it'll be fine. Yeah, you're right. We probably should have arrived during daylight.
there's nothing we could have done because I literally picked you up from work and we drove, and it was because it was Friday night as well, heading north.
Yeah.
It took us a while to get up there. And it's January in the UK as well, so it gets dark pretty early. We were lucky there was no snow and ice, basically, because as we were driving down, I
Yeah.
was like, oh, because I think the year previous, I think they ran it at the same venue. I think that the obviously it's not the same event.
No.
It was a different storyline, and we were supposed to be in a different place. But I think they ran the event they ran last year was at the same venue because I remember people
Yeah.
telling us stories about, oh yeah, it was snowy and it was difficult to get to and all that, but beautiful. You know what, I've never actually. It's a shame because it's a shame we're in and out so quick. Obviously, just doing the player event and then leaving because the Lake District is probably the most beautiful part of England. It's outstanding.
I mean, it did make for some really beautiful scenes like the next day and everything.
Yeah,
But like when we arrived, obviously we arrived, it's dark and we were able to head straight in and get straight to our rooms. So we were all in like shared rooms, which actually worked out really well. We knew the group of people that was in our room. And the rooms were like completely OC areas within the place. But what they had that was really cool, they had our names, like our actual real names, on a list on the door. And if you turned it around, it was our character names.
Yeah.
So they did give the option that if you wanted your room, if everyone in the room was happy to make it IC, or even IC for maybe a particular conversation, you just turn the names around the other way, and this is now an IC space, which was a really cool idea. We just kept it OC for the weekend, but it was a really cool idea.
Yeah.
But yeah, we were able to like get in and get ourselves sorted out. This is where my poor planning comes into it, because I was so much like, Nymeria's going to a wedding. She's not bringing all her armor and everything else. Okay, she'll take some stuff for on the road. Everyone else in their road traveling gear, like fully armored up as if they've been traveling here and fighting. And then there's Nymeria in a dress and a little bit of metal. Like, this is fine.
Yeah. So we're not gonna divulge all like the story,
No.
because one, I could barely keep up with the full story anyway, and it's been a couple of weeks now. It was a complicated story. Our characters, because we came to this event like a little bit last minute. We knew because it was like an invitation. Also, yeah, this event was a wedding, right? So it was an OC IC invitation type thing as well. So a lot of the players were tied to the two families that came. So our our characters were a little bit like just along for the ride type thing, as well.
Yeah.
Like, and it kind of made sense for our characters. So it took place in world. It took place in Tassato region.
Tassato, yeah.
Yeah, Tassato, but it was like
In the
outside.
league.
Yeah, it was like outside of Tassato in the league. So it was a
Yeah, it wasn't like the actual like because
Tassato itself
people
wasn't
that
the
we
city. Tassato, but
yeah, because like people, and this is something that I actually didn't realize until like in game, until I was speaking to NPCs who spoke about traveling to Tassato, and I was like, so we're actually just on the outskirts of it. So we were, yeah, so it was a wedding, and the wedding was between a family in Dawn and a family in the League. So already like quite an interesting combination here.
yeah, it's
Um,
two quite well known um, IC and OC groups as well.
yeah,
And the people involved in the wedding were involved with organising it and things like that. So it's
yeah,
like the Cardinal of Ambition, um, whose Dornish was getting married to um, a a, a Liga, and yeah, obviously the wedding was taking part in the league. And going back to what you were saying about everybody coming in full clank, I didn't feel too bad, because pretty much half the player base was Dornish, and the other half was Leagueish. There was a few others like interspersed, but it was mainly Dawn and League, and it was quite made me feel a little bit more at ease. Obviously, a lot of the Leagueish fighters, they don't fight in clank. They have their little bit of chainmail or something like that, but they're not like proper beefy. They're a little bit more mobile, and usually
well,
pole arms and
yeah.
knives and things like that. So
Like what I like as well is that we decided that we had traveled, because like looking at the map and everything, we figured out we were going through Astala, and then we decided that we traveled with the Durondals,
mhm.
and the entire Durondal bunch are all like full set of armor, like the whole lot of them are all like ready to go, and we're like, well, this makes sense that we just be like swanning at the back at this point, because we're with all the clank, we're fine, we're just gonna
That's so.
wander in.
Thankfully, we got a pair of magical weapons. We got a magical weapon each at E4 last year. I had a woodcutter's axe gifted to me, and it was only for that one event. It only lasts one event, but it was gonna last until the winter solstice. So luckily, I hadn't put that ribbon away where I couldn't find it, because I took the ribbon off. In fact, no, I didn't take the ribbon off. I took the ribbon off yours, because yours was the super duper. What is that weapon called, by the way? Because it's super
I knew you were gonna
special.
ask it. I don't know the name of it.
I don't know the name of it.
Because but it's basically a one-handed sword that can call strike down.
Yeah,
So comment if you know the name, because I've totally forgotten it.
yeah.
Is it the something in arms or something of arms? I
I
can't remember it. But
I
yeah.
have no idea. So yeah, because I remember I took I was taking the bands off at the end of, like, when we because we we have like a storage locker now for stuff after moving house and things like that. And I remember we put a load of stuff into storage after E4. I remember taking bans off weapons, and I'm like, oh yeah, well you won't need this ribbon. And then I was like, actually, maybe keep a hold of this ribbon just in case we do any player events before the winter solstice. And this one came up. We're like, yes, we'll take our magical weapons because they will work. But that's pretty much all we had. I didn't take my chainmail because it was in store. Mainly it's because it was in storage. Basically, like I don't know where half
Yeah.
of my armor is. So, but I've got all my soft kit at home. So that's pretty much why I didn't take any clank. And I was like, I'll be fine. I'm going to a wedding. There'll be a bit of a scuffle, and that'll be it.
I spent the weekend in a very long dress that was not anvil length. It was dragging across the ground. I had literally that on, and then I had like my gorget and my pauldrons because they all looked cool. And that was it. Actually, that was it.
Yeah, I tell you what, it worked out. It worked out for Daemon and Nymeria because we went in and we're like, you know what, whatever. We're at a wedding. We are trying to be like the noblest, nobly people ever, and we are guests. So in our like, this is obviously very much from our point of view. Um, so our characters, uh, because our first characters died like right after like the liberation of the barons and all that, so our characters are very much written around the fact that they have been fighting in the barons. Now it's been liberated, now they have returned to Weirwater, and they've now got like different duties, right? So
Mm.
they're duties that were, because a lot of the nobles and that are now moving back into the barons, and there's no need for Nymeria and the more and Daemon and the Mortair forces to be there anymore. You know that this still will be, but in general, we've now moved back home to Weirwater, which means that we are now like, right, okay, we need to do our new duties as the nobles of the house. So yeah, it kind of made sense that Daemon and Nymeria had like or House Mortair had an invitation to the wedding, and we kind of thought, well, maybe our like enchantress would couldn't make it, so she sent us in her stead, and we were doing another player event the following week that takes place in the league as well. And we're like, well, what if we're on this like big tour, and we're just doing this
Yeah.
big like loop, but also the fact that we are playing these real nobly kind of nobles, the fact that we didn't have all of our like proper big armor on, it kind of worked for it because we were a little bit of a talking point because of that. It's like,
No, it did work out well. Like I literally had like heeled shoes on and everything as well. Just like this is fine. It's
yeah.
not gonna like what are they expecting?
Yeah. What was quite funny, one thing that you did make me laugh when you got a little bit confused that because there was a lot of people. Obviously, there was the people crewing the event, but because we just arrived, and obviously there's a lot of people. There's one or two people crewing that you were like, has that character changed nation? I'm like, no, no. I'm like, I think they're not who you think they are.
It took me a minute.
Hmm.
By a minute, I mean it took me a night, and I figured out what was actually happening.
Yeah.
Honestly, again, it's like we had Elle at this event as well. And we just had her the previous weekend where she played 500 different people. And then we had her playing her character at this event, who my character knows, which was quite cool. But I was like, okay, how do we interact? Because I've just had so many relationships with you in once. I don't know how to react around you now.
Yeah. Well, that was the thing as well because these are new characters. What was instantly like, oh, to me, and I hadn't actually thought about it because we played them at the autumn summit, and then obviously there's a long dark. And we've talked about these new characters so much, and we've been building up to LARP season. We went and we did another LARP, and then it wasn't until I kitted up and I started role playing. I'm like, oh crap! Like obviously I've had this kit and I've been talking about this character for about like 7-8 months now, but I've only ever played him once. It kind of dawned on me as soon as I started playing. I'm like, oh,
It
I've
was a weird one. Like I was super happy though with this because like I have my whole new kit for this and everything as well. I had the new dress, but I had the new wig, which was just like
Your wig, yeah, yeah,
I
with
just
your
loved
space
it.
buns.
Oh, my space buns. Yeah, those are staying, by the way. I was like, oh, they'll just come out. No, they're staying.
They're quite iconic, actually. They're quite it gives you a real like um a real distinctive silhouette, and
That's what I was after because somebody said that about RNL. They said, oh, I'll miss her silhouette. And I was like, oh, I need to create something for Nymeria then, don't I? That's
yeah.
different.
Yeah, have a little bit of a different look. I think you look absolutely like the contacts that you wear. Um, yeah, it really makes the character pop. But basically, when you put the contacts in, it's just like, oh yeah, you're now Nymeria, you know?
Yeah, they seem to have a bit of an intimidating feel, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, so obviously we arrived, we got into our kit and everything, and then this was really great, the briefing that everybody did. So Jazz and Sally put together the event, and this was like so many people kept going on and on about like, you know, you need to attend one of their events, and now we understand why. The briefing itself was great as well. So they went through all the safety sort of procedures. They also went through a system that I haven't actually seen before. So, this was a system in role play where if they're going to speak about a topic that is quite a heavy topic that OC someone might not be okay about, they you know, hold up a hand to say, like, you know, this is what the topic's going to be. And then you can respond by being like, yeah, keep going up, yeah, go for it, or just get or just yeah, give me some of the information, but don't go into too much detail, or nope, I would like this conversation to end, you
Mm.
know, and it was a quite a cool way of being able to bring that into role play. And then, right, this next thing, we got handed envelopes. Now, before we get onto the envelopes, a week or so before the event, we were all sent this questionnaire and we were told we don't have to answer it, but if we do answer it, we will receive some very targeted role play moments, basically. So you filled it in. It was things along the lines of why are you really coming to the wedding? What's your biggest regret? What makes you proud? It was things along these lines. And we answered them all, and we got given an envelope. My envelope had 3 pieces of paper. They were folded over with a little sticker on it, and it said things like open midnight on Friday, or open the first time you see your reflection, or open after this, and things like that.
Oh yeah, they're all different as well because I
They were
remember
all different, yeah.
there was a moment where I was like, oh yeah, you know, I'm opening mine. I can open mine, and you were like, no, it says oh no, you were like, oh, are you opening yours? I'm like, yeah, it's Saturday. And you're like, no, it doesn't. It says Saturday. Mine says Saturday lunchtime, and I'm like, no, mine literally just says Saturday. As soon as it's Saturday.
It was your reflection one because I think your one said the first time you see your reflection. My one said the first time I see your reflection after midday on
After lunch,
Saturday.
yeah, or something like
Yeah, or
that.
after lunch. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Mm.
So that was quite cool. So we had all these like cool little bits to kind of role play on and everything. And yeah, then we kind of we started from there. And honestly, the role play, like this was some political role play
It
going
was
on.
yeah, it was a little bit weird getting back into Empire mode because you don't again playing going off and playing and now my watch begins, you know, which was very like, oh, these are new characters. It's a fighty game. You know, there are politics in that world, but it's mainly about just like little kind of more subtle interactions, and then you go into an Empire player event where a lot of the characters have like hats, and you know there's lots of senators about, there's lots of cardinals about, there's lots of generals about, and you're like, and you're like, oh, okay, get myself back into Empire headspace, you know, and try and figure out what the hell I think about what's going on. Um, was quite fun. So the general story was that we were there. We had arrived on the Friday or whatever, and the wedding was supposed to be the following day. And yeah, as we were like socializing as we had just arrived, welcomed in load of NPCs who were playing locals, right? They were playing like the local cartels, basically, and
Mm.
there was again, like, to be honest, I can't remember exactly the story. There's no point in me saying again. It's
I feel like some of it's not the worst thing in the world that we like the bits that we got out of it
yeah,
like were absolutely amazing, but also there's certain bits that I'm like, I feel like this might still be active and I feel like that still might be
no,
active, so I
yeah,
wouldn't want to
yeah,
divulge like too many details.
no, there's no point, no.
But yeah, we had like the cartels that were local to here,
Mhm.
and they were coming in as NPCs, and some of them there was a little bit of talk back and forward of how happy they were about this wedding taking place. And this was like just on the Fridays, they were a bit like, I don't know, there wasn't a lot at this point, and you could tell there was some tension, mainly because we were there and like somebody came up to my shoulder and like tapped me and was like, by the way, a load of people have just arrived with weapons. And then we're like, okay. And we just kind of like did that relaxed sort of thing as we whispered to each other, being like, people with weapons arrived. Cool. Let's
Yeah, that's
let's
the thing.
slowly
You and
change our
I
position.
are not playing jumpy characters either, and we're not
Or not.
playing like we're playing more reactive characters than, well, actually I don't think that's fair. We are proactive, but more in a situation like that, we're quite, especially Damon's like quite, you know um what would the word be? I kind of want to say tranquil. But quite kind of like he's not, he's not going to
Gives
just
an
like,
aura of being in
yeah, there we
control
go,
of a
yeah.
situation that
Hmm.
he currently does not have the information for.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, don't go jumping to conclusions. So
Yeah.
yeah, I was just enjoying a drink. Yeah, another cartel had come in. They were not so happy. I think our host had an issue with them. Basically, what I could gather, there was um like two cartels and a third one had kind of come in. And yeah, I mean, I didn't really find out too much more than that
Yeah. Like
during the night.
a lot of the Friday was us getting introduced to certain NPCs that were
Mm,
going to be making many more
mm,
appearances for the weekend. We met the local Kikabios,
mm.
which were very involved with what was happening over the weekend. So we were introduced to them. We're introduced to some of the locals. Also, people were playing NPC roles that were actually meant to be like within the family as well. So we were able to get little bits of information, just kind of like dipping in for us all, and we were all able to like decipher that you're like, yeah, there's a few things going on here, isn't there? This is all a little
Yeah.
bit sus. um
When was the first
but
murder? Was the first murder the first night, or was it the following day?
it was the first night, wasn't
I
it?
think so. Yeah.
Yeah, because there was a weird scream and I remember we all went, anyone hear that? What was happening? And then somebody, I think there was like a murder and it was like a member of like, it was like an NPC sort of like murder,
Hmm.
obviously.
Yeah, it's all blurring
um
into one, to be honest. The whole
Yeah,
thing.
but it was like, especially since selfishly, a lot of Friday I was making connections. So
Well, this is the thing. You have a plot. I mean, that's a cool thing with an Empire player event. If there's a plot, or there's a plot to the player event. We are go like we went to one a couple of weekends ago. We're going to one this weekend. Player events that are just social events. There's no plot. There might be a little bit of plot. And the next one, I don't know. I don't know what they've got planned. But
I have my theories.
the interesting thing about like this one with like a player event with a plot line running through it is that you can interact with the plot, and you can like jump in and out doing your normal Empire stuff. Yeah, like going and talking about, oh, what we're gonna do in the future at these next summits and things like that. Because you just spend the whole event just doing that, and then if you
Yeah.
wanted to concentrate on the plot they were throwing out, you could.
Yeah, it felt like being at Empire basically. There was so much going on and
Mm,
so much that you could like dip your toes into, or like Oliver said, just like,
mm,
lean back and just really get comfortable into being your character again. So yeah, the rest of the night was absolutely great and everything. We got to have lots of really interesting conversations that night, lots of drink, and then we're able to like head up and rest for the evening.
yeah. Next morning,
Because
go
the
on.
neci morning was an early start.
It was an
So
early
it
start. I had
was
to get up early and go, oh crap, I've not got enough beer for. So I had to head off in my pajamas and find the nearest open, because I think there was like a co-op closer than what I drove, but that wasn't open until like 10, and timing was at 10. So I was
9.
like, no, timing was at 9. Well, I think it was like
Well,
breakfast at 9, wasn't it? And
it was. It said on the thing, "I see breakfast at 9."
mm,
So I got all my stuff on for 9 basically. So by the time you came back, we managed to get ourselves sorted out, head down, get breakfast, and just like slowly bring ourselves in. Right. This was the first big surprise, okay? So we'd had breakfast. It was probably nearing like 10 a.m. or something
hmm
now. And we'd heard that there was something. We basically had heard that there was something going on with local cartels, and a group of us were going to go out and meet them basically. And we're like, okay, so there's going to be some combat, right?
I'm glad you knew. But so what was the plan? We were supposed to head out to their
We were
digs.
heading out somewhere.
All
Yes,
right.
I can't
So
remember
I
the
was
exact
totally
location.
oblivious to this. I was just like, oh, everyone's outside. Cool. What's everyone
No,
doing?
because that's why we were in armor. That's why we went back to get our armor on. We went back in to get armor and stuff on.
Oh.
Yes. So I was like,
Wonder why I have my sword on me.
fuck's sake. So we went out to get our armor on, and this when we came outside, and everyone was like chilling and stuff. And I was like, oh, we're obviously just waiting to head out. And this is where I saw the views, and I was like, oh my gosh, the views around here are beautiful.
Mm,
So I was like, I'm not tying my dress up just yet because it doesn't look quite as good when it's tied up. So dress is like
posing for the
dropped
photographer.
down. Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, this is a nice scene. They'll get a lovely picture here.
Mm.
So I was just chatting away with people, chatting with the Durandals because I was like, well, we're going to hang out with them anyway when we go out. It's fine. And there was a lot of screaming, and a lot of people came to attack us right there.
Yeah. Yeah. So, like, literally, it like the car park, was obviously it was all pebble, I don't know what you call them. In Scotland call them chuckies, don't they? Little,
So it's like swan chips.
yeah, stones. It's all like stone on the car park. So there's lots of oxen carts parked up as well, and there's a stone wall, and then you get a view out onto the lake. Yeah, and between us, like on one side of the oxen cart park, there is a load of people coming down the hill, and they're like, "Get the hell out!" And we're like, "What?" And so yeah, we ended up getting attacked, which was quite hilarious, to be honest. Because
Sorry, your response there. What? We're standing there, and over here's, hey, hey,
what?
what?
What was quite hilarious was that I'm like, "Oh, okay, we're doing combat right here." I do not. I've got my nice kit on as well. I'm like, I do not want to be falling down. There's not a chance that I'm going down. I've got like 2 hit points, um, and I'm like, there is not a chance that I'm going to be on the floor. I don't want to go to 0. I don't want to get struck down. So I was just very careful. They came running at me, and I was like, you know what? I've got a woodcutter's axe. Cool. I definitely blew my load too early on the shatters. I really wish I'd saved my hero points for the rest of the weekend. So it's just like shatter. Okay, now I don't have any way of getting these heroes points back. So the woodcutter's axe and the shatter ability is really good unless you have very prepared people that you're fighting with like 6 weapons on them. Then it just really feels like a waste of a waste of a hero point, to be honest. So, um,
Yeah. Also, sorry, Phil, for striking you down onto the cobble's ground, but you did come running at me,
yeah.
and I didn't want to get my dress muddy. So, sorry.
So what was funny about
Just
this
like, go away.
what was funny about this encounter is that so they started coming at us in waves, didn't they? And then we were all
Yeah.
outside, and then they were in the house. So we were
Right.
all
Okay.
outside.
So to circle back a little bit, they did make it really clear the day before. They were like, remember, everywhere here is somewhere that is a like I see. And they said, for example, if a window is open and someone is able to climb through it, they will climb through it. They basically gave us a warning of maybe keep the doors and the windows shut. I'm
Yeah,
gonna listen.
yeah.
There was an attack. We all ran outside, and then we heard this big bang as the door got shut behind us, and we heard people screaming inside.
Yeah, yeah. I mean that was quite a cool encounter like thing
Mm.
as well. So yeah, we had enemies like in the actual house, so we were fighting in the doorway. Um there was quite a funny moment between two people, one of whom was part of the organization crew, and a player. The player was like, there was like basically a fight in the doorway, and the player was like, "Oh, I think with safety, do we let them out?" And I was like, "I don't think so. I think they're going to die. I think we just go at them." The organizer was just like, "Yep, nope, nobody said anything about safety. If they are there, they are in play. You can kill them. Cool, awesome." So we ended up like just using them coming out of the door to get us as like a bottleneck, to then just push through, and obviously they're going down, so trying to get into like the atrium as well when everyone's like going down was quite fun.
It was intense.
Yeah, yeah. So the entire day was, so there were several murders throughout the day. There was basically NPCs getting murdered. No player character died. I don't think. I don't think. I think there was a
One
couple.
came close.
One came very close that I know of. Apparently, that was
Mm-hmm.
a very high,
Mm-hmm.
and they did say it was a very high risk encounter at the end of the weekend. But there was NPCs getting like sporadically kind of murdered. Along the way, there was obviously a lot of the things we were opening our envelopes, and there was things like we were basically seeing things. We were seeing visions of like our, so Daemon. I'm not going to say what Daemon saw because I think it's going to play very nicely into my storyline throughout. So I probably will divulge it on here what he saw um, further down the road. But it definitely gave me some good character development for Daemon. He saw his greatest fear, which he thought he had already conquered his greatest fear. Now he realised what his actual greatest fear is. He saw someone that he had betrayed, and those feelings have come bubbling up again. So yeah, Daemon's definitely, he's part of a house that's about death. He's gone more into being a death cultist now, basically.
Yeah, I mean, like for Nymeria, she saw some pretty heavy stuff. She also heard quite a lot of things as well. She had a lot of like things that she was hearing and feeling that were more related to what was happening in the house rather than like her own past and things like that.
Hmm.
So she had a pretty awful vision of something that had happened from her past. And then she heard things and felt things. And lots of people were saying that they've heard things in the house. They felt things during the night or when they tried to go to sleep at night. There was something there.
Yeah.
So a lot of these sort of like little whispers and things were making people start to feel that there was something else in this house. And there was this sort of rumor going around that the place was haunted. And this is where things from the house's history started to come into play. And this is due to the fact that there was a wedding that was supposed to happen that never did. And I want to say it was 27 years ago, but I might be mistaken on that number. But I think it was 27 years ago.
Yeah,
There
it's a
was
long time
meant to
ago,
be,
basically.
yeah, there was meant to be a wedding in the house. And this wedding never happened. The bride did not survive until her wedding, and she never got what she wanted to, which was to have her wedding.
Yeah.
Now, today, there's still these people alive who were there at that wedding because it was only 27 years ago.
Yeah.
So there's people who were at the wedding, some people who are very closely connected to it. And that led us to all these different things where we realized we had to actually find out what was going on here.
Yeah. So the bride, the wedding. You were saying the wedding that happens. So the bride to be, was murdered, basically. So we knew that much from like literally speaking. Like you said, it's known as a known thing from the NPCs that are like, yeah, she was murdered.
Yeah. And there was lots of different things to work out over the weekend as well. There was, and we were able to piece together all these parts of the story. The way the information was given to us was through various like NPC interactions, but also through the discovery of several items that we believed were maybe cursed, or and then we found out they were all connected to this person, to this woman. And this is when Daemon and Nymeria got to be part of one of the interactions with these items. So one of the items found was a mirror. It was like a little silver mirror, and they believed it belonged to her. And we were able to go into a little closed off room, the games room,
Mm.
if you like. And there was a small group of us there, and we had to crack a code first. So we had several lines of like a poem
Yeah,
or like
again,
an
we came in like
enchantment.
halfway through, so
Yeah,
somebody had already figured all this out, and we were just like, "Hey,
yeah.
we'll
We
we'll
like
come and watch."
curses.
We like watch. So basically, mechanically, it was a possession. So like any type of exorcism in Empire, it's basically the spirit can be anchored, so you can be part of a. It can possess something, but also spirits can have like be anchored to physical objects. So what they had done in this game, they had gone right. Okay, there were several objects spread out among the house and on the grounds that this spirit was anchored to, and obviously then we had to get a someone to cast like detect magic, identify. We had to get a priest in. We had to basically get this spirit out of this. I'm not entirely sure exactly how it works. I should. I feel like Daemon should know a lot of this stuff because I'm thinking about going into this type part of the game, like exorcism and
Mm.
things like that. Because I'm not entirely sure what happens game mechanically to take the spirit and put it into the person. Because we
Yeah,
basically had the spirit possess this person because we could speak to them.
because what we were told as well is we were like, just don't touch it. If
Mm.
you touch it, your heart will explode. We're like, beautiful. We're in this tiny little confined space. We're fine. They're like, oh, you can touch it with your weapons. We're like, oh, great.
Yeah.
Can I just say, Sally, you're terrifying. That role play that you did as this spirit was absolutely terrifying. The screaming, everything. And at the end, it was described that we all felt, cold and chilled. And I'm sorry, we didn't need the description. Trust me, we all felt cold and chilled after that. We were
Yeah.
we were there.
Yeah, and our new freeborn friend did a good job being the one possessed. It was quite hilarious, because we're basically like ready to just like cleave a leg off, like it's fine. He's just like, please just don't kill. If I go, if you put me to zero, just please get me up. Don't let me die. But anyway, let's crack on. So yeah, we spoke and we
Yes.
ended up speaking. So everybody throughout the event figured out that some people were speaking to the ghost. We literally spoke to the spirit, and there was also a night
Mm-hmm.
regio up nearby. I think there was a winter regio as well
There
down
was a
by
winter
there
regio,
was
yeah.
also a winter regio. But people were doing different rituals throughout the weekend as well, so everyone figured out that it was definitely this bride that had been murdered that was causing ghosty problems,
Yeah.
basically.
Can I
Um,
also say as well, like everybody did a really good job at actually, even though right now we're probably not doing the best job at kind of recapping some of these things, at the time, everyone did a really good job at making sure people knew what was going on. We had a lot of people coming up being like, right, okay, so, and like giving you the information and like piecing it all together. Um, we had um Beaumont was doing his usual thing where he'd pieced together all this stuff and was like, okay, I found out all of this. What have you found out? And we're like, we spoke to a mirror.
we did actually like the second half of
It was
Saturday.
good
We
fun.
actually did jump into quite a lot of the
Yeah, I
plot.
I felt
I'm
more
saying
prepared.
we were bystanders, but we saw a lot of stuff, even though we couldn't. Again, our characters we don't really have that many abilities yet either. To be honest, we're like quite fighty in our base abilities. But my I've only got I've just basically got dedication. That's the only pre skill I actually have. So I
It was
couldn't
cool
jump into any of
because
that game.
yeah, like it was cool because we all had our different suspicions as well. Some of us had worked certain things out. Some people were thinking, oh, there's a daughter somewhere. Some people were thinking,
Mm,
like trying to figure out based on the NPCs that were there who were in love with her. And
yeah,
they're like working all this stuff out. And it was just so cool because everything just pieced together.
yeah.
And then we had like the biggest, this bit of plot I can tell you everything about because somebody's goats gone missing.
So yeah, I mean, this was genius. I don't know whether this just came up or whether this was absolute genius writing because basically, there was talk about ghosts all weekend, and there was talk about goats all weekend. So that was the most hilarious little bit of like what.
Well, this woman's goats had gone missing, like goats with horns. And we were like, right, okay, we got to the bottom of this. And it was actually Guy that really took this on, because then like, we all had the story and we're like, okay, nothing will probably come of it. Then someone came in selling goat meat. We're like, right. So the head of the goat was bought so that we could get this NPC back. Um, when she eventually came back and we presented, for some reason, we thought, we'll show the head of the severed goat. Broke down, absolutely broke down. This goat, this goat was a mother. Her kid was still with her. This was, oh my gosh, I'm raking my brain to remember the name of this goat because I feel like I can almost say it, but I keep forgetting it. And it was serious. So Guy went out. He found that person who had murdered these goats. And he dragged him into the living room as Nymeria and Daemon are sitting on the sofa. And he's like, puts him down there as like, keep an eye on him. And we're like, okay. And we're like standing either side with our weapons, just asking him the most stupid of questions, really. Just bugging this guy.
Yeah, it was quite funny because we were like, I had my sword close-ish. This goat thief was just like sat there, and I was, he was like, oh yeah, keep an eye, and we were just like, okay, we were just just very very casual on the sofa, cross-legged, and it was quite
That was
funny.
the goat meat industry.
Yeah, just trying to be like just subtly intimidating. So yeah, the other plot thread that I couldn't quite connect to everything was the Whisper Gallery. So the Whisper Gallery was, is a herald. The Whisper I don't. It's a Night Herald. So sorry, a Night Eternal. So that we had heralds of the Whisper Gallery. We had like these little. They were basically people with these birds. I couldn't quite figure out, were they supposed to be. Were they heralds with birds, or were the birds the heralds? I think the birds were actually the heralds, right? I think
I
they were
think the
actually.
birds were the heralds, but they were
So I
really
didn't speak to
creepy.
them because I purposely didn't speak to them because they were asking for secrets. Like like
Yeah.
kind of night magic is all about like secrets, and sorry, night realm, sorry, is all about like secrets and all sorts. So I'm assuming. I didn't quite. I wasn't part of this plot that pieced together what the Whisper Gallery actually had to do with the ghost and what was going on over the weekend. I'm assuming
I'm
there
not too
was.
sure.
I'm assuming that there was why we were all like having issues as well, like where we were all hearing whispers all weekend, because it was. I don't think it was a coincidence that it was just the spirit that was doing it, just the ghost that was doing it. I think the Whisper Gallery had a lot to do with it. But that was quite cool anyway, seeing the Whisper Gallery heralds come in like a couple of times and everyone being like, oh, and just kind of a lot of people were ignoring them. Some people were talking to them and be like, and other people like, you shouldn't be talking to those heralds.
I just like the fact that I remember them coming in and you and I just being like, nope. I walked away. Like, that is not for us.
If it had been Winter Heralds or something, then I would have been all over it. Because especially you
Probably would have killed them.
Yeah, you like killing Winter Heralds. So if it had been Winter Heralds would be all over it. I think that was the thing about having Daemon there this weekend. Unfortunately, it would have been a really good event if our entire house was there, because there was a lot of things that were going on that I'm like, oh, I know exactly the person that would be into this. I know exactly the person who'd be into that. For a lot of it, Daemon and Nymeria were just like, hey, we're just here for a wedding. Like,
We
sure.
came for a wedding. We
Yeah.
heard there was going to be cake
Yeah,
and dancing.
we just came for a wedding, and I just took that attitude the entire time. So yeah, okay, I didn't really feel it under any threat. So, another important part of the story was that because there was issues with these cartels, and there was problems with the cartel that was hosting us. It was an NPC cartel that was hosting us for the wedding. It wasn't the actual groom side of the wedding that was hosting us. It was an NPC cartel that was hosting us. So there was issues with these outside cartels. With this one, they put a blockade around the village, basically. So the idea was we were trapped basically until this had all been sorted out. But even with that, we didn't really feel under any threat. You know, I feel like Daemon and Nymeria were just like, oh well, I'm sure this will all be sorted out. We can defend ourselves. You know,
Yeah.
yeah. So
It was quite cool to like have that type of character and that type of
mm,
attitude as well. Which it was quite fun sort of like going through it like that.
mm,
Um so yeah, we sort of continued the day, and then this is when different opportunities started to arise with what we could do at this point.
mm,
So there was a whole group that had headed out one side, and then around about the same time we were like chilling out, and when the Kiki Bales came and they went, oh, like my sister needs to go, and we need to go to this regio, and we could do with some protection.
yeah. Well, a big
And
group went out, didn't they, to go and see what the deal was at the graveyard, which was like the Winter Regio. You know, the big a big group went out. Then we didn't go because we were like, you know what, we're not going to go because it sounded dangerous. Also, bear in mind the ground was very slippy and muddy, and I
mm,
had my nice boots on. I didn't have my armor. I had my nice kit on. So when they were like, right, we're heading off down into the woods because everyone was like, the woods, the woods. Well, that was it as well. Like the whispers kept telling everyone to go to the woods as well. So a
yeah,
big group went off to the woods to see what the hell was going on. Throughout the weekend as well, we kept getting attacked by the cartels and things like that, and you weren't overly sure who you could trust, who you couldn't trust. When it came to the NPCs, there was lots of NPCs that were literally like non-com and just hanging out with us all the time. You're like, can we trust this person? They were usually ones that were dying, by the way. They
mm.
were the ones that get murdered. They were the ones that were just like chilling at the wedding with all of us, and then they were dying. Um, but yeah, we didn't really like, and then we stepped up into action when was sort of the main finale when we found out that our hosts were the baddies basically, and we had the people doing the ghost stuff connected the dots to one of the characters was the one that she wanted to marry because the basically she wanted the wedding after speaking to the ghost, speaking to night through night regios and lots of ceremonies, not ceremonies, lots of rituals that happened. We figured out that she basically wanted the wedding that she never got. There was a child. There wasn't really a child. It was just a hypothetical child that would have been around
A
if the
child
wedding
that
had
would
gone
have
ahead.
been a life that would have been that never was, and
Yeah.
it was really beautiful. And so we're like, yeah,
So we
okay,
figured out that we had
this is
to
beautiful.
somehow to appease the spirit. We had to marry, but the person we figured out was one of the NPCs that was with us. And at that point, we found out that we were being betrayed by the people hosting us, and they had done a runner. So then it was up to basically us to go to the go to their headquarters and so leave the house and head up and go boot them out of the headquarters, which was like the big encounter in the end, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Um,
so what we had to do was like because we had people who were like our non-coms, if you like, and we had to have those people they went into the games room and and barricaded themselves into the games room so that we could all head up and you like flush everything out because we were expecting more people to come around into the house, so we had to be prepared. And we got to go and do some real fun fighting here. This was good fun.
yeah, again, the ground was slippery because as we went onto the grass, the ground was quite slippy. I think the worst the worst that happened to me was that I slipped. You know, I stood forward to attack and then I slipped. Apart from that, I didn't even get hit in that one. But I know Daemon is not Godric, and I am quite happy for that as well. Um, so I mentioned it actually in the last episode we did when we were talking about the tactics. It was quite interesting because we had it was a small group of people. It's like a skirmish, like an Empire skirmish. So you know you had people, different nations, and we had a similar force that we were going up against. You know, again, could be quite deadly, especially when it's like 1-to-1 ratio, and they had a lot of abilities as well. You know, so they definitely weren't pushovers. You know, and I remember I was like, right, okay, well, one, I don't want to get hit. There are archers as well. I don't have any armor on, but I have a big fuck off sword, basically. So my tactics here is not like I would with my previous character, who was clanky, had a shield, was always at the front. But now I think I actually prefer my way of fighting now, because I can just kind of prowl like a freaking panther in the back, and that's kind of what I do now.
I feel like my fighting's more proficient now. Like before, like you said, I definitely just stood in the front line and would just be like running in doing things. Whereas now I take more time to be like,
You mean efficient? You're like,
yeah,
yeah,
sorry, efficient,
yeah.
yeah. So that's like, yeah, so now I obviously take that time to kind of like be like, okay,
I do have to keep
I
reminding
can
you, by the way.
see a threat. Yeah.
There's so many times that I have to like be, Nymeria, remember, we're not, you don't need to be in the front line. Just like you with a dress and two swords in the front line. I'm like, Nymeria, there are plenty of shields here. You do
If
not
anyone
need to be
hasn't
there.
realized, I still really miss her now.
You're like, ah, like that with your swords, and like, you don't.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't.
Not over that
I was
cartel.
like, also, yeah, in character as well. Like Godric and Aranel were probably very much like, yes, we will save the day. Whereas Daemon and I, I remember going up to you and being like, Nymeria, like the last thing I want to, this is not a good, a glorious death would not be dying for a tiff between two leaguish cartels. So get out the front line.
So yeah, we were able to carry on fighting here, and we were able to get the people we were after, and also everybody else there. We were there ready for this big final fight, and all the locals are like, yeah, we don't want to fight. We're like, you've won. Just let us leave. And it was really like tense this bit because some people were like gunning and ready to go for it. Whereas like others were like, oh no, look, just let them leave. They have to drop their weapons and go, sort of thing. And it was quite hairy kind of getting out because nobody trusted them.
Yeah, I mean it was fine. We didn't actually get attacked or anything leaving, but
Nah.
yeah, we didn't. The problem was is that they were basically once we had captured our two objectives, once we had captured our two prisoners, obviously they were all like, well, they're just they're mercenaries. Again, it's in the league, like there's lots of it's mercenary stuff. They're all paid fighters, and they're just like, well, we don't want to die, because you just capture the person paying us. So,
Yeah.
but then obviously because people were taking them up to the house and we were still stood there was like more and more people like leaving. I'm like, okay, well they're still armed and there's still there's still a lot of them.
It's still there.
Yeah, I mean one thing about this encounter for like Empire skirmish kind of lessons that you learn from those types of things. Forward momentum is just key to winning battles in those, especially if it's like 20v20 up to like 40 people, 50 people. Because we were moving forward, that's all we did. That's all we did
Yeah.
is move forward. And they just, because they were going backwards, they lost quite quickly. And you can put that onto any Empire skirmish. If you
Yeah.
if you just get forward momentum and manage to get the enemy moving backwards, then you're winning every time. It's just so much easier when your enemy is moving backwards. As soon as you start moving backwards, it's difficult because then you've got to like have eyes everywhere. But if you're just moving forward, yeah. But anyway,
Yeah. Yeah, no, exactly. So we were able to then obviously sort of get back to the house and stuff, and then we could like come into the house, and this is when there was a few things like about to happen, sort of thing, and we were kind of like, some people were heading off to get dressed for the wedding. Some people were staying to do some interrogating, some chatting, and everything else. And we were kind of like, oh, we're going to go get ready, but we did know there was a whispers about to happen, and there was a lot of like, what's going to happen here? And we were like, we probably should go for nothing else than just to document this winter thing that's happening and feed it back to the house because this
yeah,
seems quite interesting.
yeah. Again, this is one of those like, if someone comes to House Mortaire and was like, "Hey, there's a ghost that needs to get married through whispers," there's a lot of different people in our group that would just be like, "Oh my god!" and love that. Um, Daemon and Nymeria are probably not the exact characters, but we were like, right, okay, we'll go anyway. Also, just as a player, it was fun to see as well. So that, yeah, we went down into the
Uh,
woods where it was supposed to be the graveyard. They did a, was it an actual? I'm assuming it was an actual whispers. We missed that. I'm not too sure how, if it was an actual Whispers ritual, was it?
There was a lot of gossip back and forward. People said it was whispers and so on. But basically, we went down to this area, this beautiful big open clearing in within the woods. And at this point here, when we got there, we actually witnessed the sort of the ghost of this bride, and they married her to her real life love, who is alive, by
Yeah.
the way. And they danced and they were singing, and it was beautiful. And she disappeared. And then he said some really crazy stuff to us all and dropped down to the ground.
Yeah, so this is what I didn't know whether that was just a possession of an evil spirit or whether that was what was going on there. But yeah, we got basically got a warning that we're all gonna die. Awesome. Um, there was another encounter. We didn't do it. We were like, no, it's not that. We're gonna go get ready for the wedding ceremony. There was something to do with like tulpas, which is some I don't really know much about them. They're like something to do with Urzeni and constellations and things like that. And they're quite deadly. Apparently, someone almost died. So like a player character almost died.
Player
Um,
character did almost die because
mm.
yeah.
But what was quite good to mention the NPCs after that. Obviously the people playing NPCs and crewing showed up at the actual wedding as their characters, which was really cool. You know, so unfortunately, it was a shame because like we had a lot of our friends there. Like we had Tancred and Martin and things like that who were like soon there. It was like, oh, these people have arrived. It was quite funny. I remember saying to Martin actually, I was like, because they were their players, their phys reps were sorry that yeah their players were crewing all day. And we were talking about what had happened. I'm like, it's funny, just having you here makes me feel so much safer and feel like nothing bad is going to happen. So, um, yeah, there was uh, uh, Vesna arrived, our Empress elect. Which, funnily enough, like just briefly, I think PD had put out recently that we went on when we had Rosa on the podcast. And we were talking about the whole thing. There could be a veto. Apparently, there's not. Apparently, it's the deadline for veto has already passed. Apparently,
Yeah.
so that there is no people going. Oh yeah, it might be vetoed. Might be vetoed. Apparently, there is no chance. Vesna is going to be the Empress, and I think the coronation, I think it's quite quick, isn't it? It's like literally E2 or something, isn't it?
E1.
Is it literally E1?
I thought it was E1,
Oh,
yeah.
oh God knows, yeah. Well, that yeah. So yeah, but I remember being surprised, being like, oh wow, it was that quick. Um, so yeah, because obviously that makes sense then. If they are literally going to be organizing PD a coronation, they're not going to let the players like veto it. But it's not as if they haven't changed the rules, so they can't veto it. Apparently, it was always a rule. Whatever. Basically, we're Vesna as our empress. It's a shame
Yes.
because like my character has no reason to go to speak to Vesna really, and I missed interacting with Rose's character. But yeah, we had a wedding. The wedding went ahead without a hitch. There was no funerals. There was more NPC deaths as well. The obviously the prisoners were dealt with, or they dealt with themselves.
Yeah, so this
In
was like
barbaric
a
fashion.
big this was like a big sort of thing. So the Kikabales, who were local to the area, were also there on the night that this bride was murdered. And they had their own sort of ideas on how they wanted people dealt with. And the prisoners were there. The Kikabales wanted to take them away. There was a lot of back and forward. Yeah, so then the knife ended up in the hand of the prisoner, and they basically unalived themselves in front of everybody else who was there. Yeah, then that annoyed the Kikabales and they left.
And then the wedding happened, which is a there was a lot of being like sworn into the cartel. It was very yeah, very
They're like,
dramatic.
everybody, say the words with us. So we're standing going,
Yeah, I
what
know.
are they all
It's I got
doing?
yeah. There was a lot of people. It sounded like there was a lot more than just those people in that family, saying those words. But yeah, it was basically an oath to yeah come when called upon to defend the empire, which ain't the worst thing
Yeah,
for every
yeah.
character, but still. pledging loyalty to someone when you're just a wedding guest is not something that I was going to I was going to do. But yeah, and not much else happened after that. We
We
spoke
got to have really good food. We got to
cake. We
have
got good
some
cake.
amazing cake. We
Yeah.
had the dancing
Oh, we
lesson.
had we went out and we danced. That was quite cool actually. I was quite
Yeah,
drunk at that point actually, to be
I was
honest.
so
Yeah.
drunk.
Yeah, I think we were struggling. It's quite funny. So yeah, the player playing the groom as well. They were dancing. And I think he's he's quite a proficient dancer. And we have had we did like proper dancing lessons and that for our wedding and
One
things like that.
one dancing lesson.
Yeah, but you forget it. Or you forget all this stuff. But it was quite cool. And we had all the different couples out there dancing, so it was quite cool to kind of do weddingy stuff as Nymeria and Daemon in the moonlight. The weather was great, by the way. Like all day, the weather was really really good because the next day, obviously there was no time in on Sunday. It was just it was the end of the event. It was just pack up and leave on Sunday, and the weather was awful on Sunday. It was peeing down with rain, and it was just it was horrible and dark and dull. But the Saturday and the Saturday night, beautiful for a January in the north of England.
Yeah, like overall, the weather was amazing.
Mm,
The scenery was so beautiful. The plot that was there to interact
yeah,
with was just wonderful, and the food was absolutely brilliant as well. It
food
was
is
all like
good. Yeah.
Italian food. It was really good.
Yeah. Oh, we
Um,
brought a wedding gift. I don't know. I think we're the only people that actually brought wedding gifts.
we
'Cause I
brought
didn't,
a wedding gift,
yeah, because
yeah.
I was like, well, we'll bring a wedding gift because it feels like, oh yeah, because like our story, because these are new characters. The House Mortaire have been like new to Anvil they're an old house, but they've been new to Anvil, since like a couple of years ago. So we're trying to regrow the reputation of the house, so it makes sense that we were sent to a wedding, and it's like, well, we've got to send a gift, and we kind of thought, well, I imagine that the enchantress was invited, and we were like, oh, why don't we just make a little like. I think at first it was just a shrubbery joke. We were like, we should just get them a shrubbery because Monty Python, and then we were like, oh no, actually, why do we not actually just give them a little tiny sample of the Black Garden, which is like a big part of our house. So we like had all the like a fizz rep of all these like poisonous plants. We're like, we don't know we're like, where's the gift table? I was like, I don't think there is a gift table. I'm like, cool, I'll put it on this table. And then they proceeded to put like the cakes around around it, and so everyone was going to get cake, and there's like this little Mortaire Black Garden like sitting right in the middle of the cakes. And I remember saying to the groom, I was like, by the way, okay, that's from us, uh, from House Mortaire. You're welcome. By the way, probably not the best idea to have that by the food. I definitely said it in more of a Daemon way, but so you might not want to have that next to the food. But no, the event was fantastic. The NPCs did a great job
Yeah.
of keeping us entertained. Yeah, I'd recommend any player event run by those folks.
Yeah, anything run by
Yeah,
Jez and Sally, because that was just amazing, and I cannot wait to come along to another event.
yeah, yeah. Awesome. Right. Well, the following week we went off to another. We went from Tassato to Temeshwar to another event. But we will recap what we got up to in Temeshwar next week. Shall we wrap this
Also,
up?
Oliver lost his gloves at the event. If anyone's
Oh yeah. So I think because I haven't cleaned out the car properly, right? Because I was going backwards and forwards to the car a lot. I have a real nice pair of soft kind of suede leather black gloves that I wore that are beautiful, and I need them for my gauntlets at E1. So if anyone sees them, I lost them at that event, I think, unless they're under the seat in the car somewhere. So if you see those gloves, you know where I am.
I mean, you also lost a trainer at the event beforehand.
I
So if
lost
we
a
could all
trainer.
gather
Yeah,
Oliver's clothing.
somehow I lost a trainer at Eversley. So But anyway, anything else to say before we sign
No,
off?
I thought it was us.
No, excellent. Cool. If you enjoyed watching this episode and hearing about our shenanigans, make sure that you like, follow, subscribe, leave a comment down below if you were at the event, if you're interested in the event, if you have any questions about the event. I'll put the event, some event information. Obviously, the event has passed. I don't know what they're going to run in the future, but I'll put some links down to the event organizer stuff. Down in the description. If you're listening to us on your favorite audio platform like Apple Podcasts, Spotify, give us a 5-star review. Go check out the Patreon if that interests you. Make sure you go and check out some of our other videos. Go check out that And Now My Watch Begins video. I'm quite proud of it. It was a really good time. And yeah, we are all geared up. It's like 2 months until Empire, and we'll start bringing you Empire LRP content. I'm super excited about that. Until the next time, though, we love you very much, and stay safe.
Bye.